All right, guys. Welcome to another episode. Today, I'm going to talk about building from the kitchen table. Okay, this is a fun one. So, before we start, I just want to say that because we don't run ads, if we only have one fee, and that's if you learn something, enjoy the show, please share the show, leave us a rating on whatever platform you're listening on or watching. So let's jump in, guys. Building from the kitchen table. This is a conversation that I had. Misty and I, obviously, we own a real estate brokerage, and we've been working to build that brokerage, not build it huge and trying to get hundreds and hundreds of agents, but we have been building the brokerage to bring on other agents to be able to help. So if let's say if someone gets their license and they're wanting to learn, they want to they're becoming an agent and they want to learn to invest, and they just kind of they don't fit the traditional model. They can come work with us, and of course we're not, like I said, we're not trying to be a large brokerage, but we're just bringing on a couple agents right now at this time of us talking. There's 7 of us in the brokerage.
Yeah.
That's Misty and I included. But we're not trying to do hundreds of agents, so we're going to leave that for others. But we like to help other individuals. It's our way of kind of being able to help others. So, but we had an interview with a particular agent that I thought was pretty we thought was pretty interesting. Um, I'm not sure if this agent will ever listen to this, and if they do, this is for you, my friend. But we let's kind of break it down, Misty. So we were talking, we always ask the questions, what's got you interested? What are you looking for? What are your goals? That kind of stuff. And their goal was to, learn to invest, and of course that's what we do, right? And if you're
Yeah.
in our brokerage, I mean, we're going to teach you, we'll teach investing as well and creative financing and all of that stuff. But, um, this individual had never done any of those things at that time.
Yeah. They want to teach others how to invest in real estate.
Right. They need to become an investor first, which, we understand. I get it. You're young, hungry. I totally understand that. But in this process, we kind of go through, because the brokerage for us is virtual. And that's something that we've
It's more common these days,
much more common these days. Absolutely. And
not
with,
only in real estate, but a lot of other avenues.
yeah, tons of other avenues. I mean, other businesses have gone virtual.
Yep.
There's so much you can do virtually. And then so this individual says, well, I've got some, other questions. I've narrowed it down between you and another brokerage. And I was like, all right, well, I can help you out. Well, their concern was that we're a virtual brokerage. And they're like, well, I need an office. I need a place to go. And I can get that to a degree. I think there's a point when it's important. But this individual is, in their early 20s. They live in a studio apartment. They don't have any
Spouse or
s-
children.
yeah, a husband, or sorry, their husband. They don't have a wife or kids, that are bouncing them around. They don't have bouncing around the walls. They don't have anything. They're not listening to Barney in the background while they're trying to get work done. I don't know if Barney's still on, but it's our Rescue Rangers or whatever. I don't know what's on nowadays. My boys are past that. They're on Cobra Kai now. So, any of those shows aren't going on. It's a studio apartment. And, my answer to this individual, is like, he says, why? I want to have an office. I want
I
to
want to separate work life from home life.
work life from home life. But there's a couple realities there that I think go on. So, and reality number one is you're building a business,
Mhm.
right? So, building a business, you're not going to be able to separate that. When you're an entrepreneur, you don't get the luxury and the ability to go, I'm just, I'm going to separate this thing.
Total separation. Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
Doesn't exist.
it will eventually,
There's some things that you can do to help control that and limit it.
but in the
Time
beginning,
blocking,
right.
things like that.
But in the beginning, it's not like that, right? In the very beginning, when think about that, I'll never forget a mentor of mine. A mentor of mine told me this. It's like the most fuel or the most energy in a rocket ship is used at the very beginning. All of your time and energy is the takeoff, getting it off the ground. That's why they use those terminologies. I got to get it off the ground. I got to get this off the ground. Getting it off the ground. There is no work-life balance.
Mhm.
Balance is the what's the number on balance? What's the number on a scale? It's perfectly balanced.
0.
0. It's absolutely zero. It's an absolute zero. That means you have zero of something, right? One of my favorite things. Tim Grover talks about that. Talks about absolute zero. There's no balance. And I hear David when I hear that, I think like David Goggins in my head telling me, there's no balance. You want to do what you be out of balance and do what you want to do, and then when you get there, get balanced. If you just want to get to zero eventually, but there is no balance. There's no work-life balance when you're opening a business. You are literally having to just build, 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 and you're going to get interrupted at the kitchen table, or well, the dinner table, I would say, when the kitchen table becomes the dinner table, right? So I want to kind of share a story. I want to have Misty's opinion on this, or her view of this. But when we started the martial arts academy, how did that start? Kind of run through that on your own eyes. Like, how did that originally start, and what did you see?
Started out of our garage.
Yeah, but kind of go through that for a second. I mean, like from your view.
Mm. I was at work. I don't know.
She wasn't at work. She didn't want it. See? Trying to trap her.
I'd
ladies and
never
gentlemen.
built a business at that point. And so I just saw you hustling all the time and opening up the business out of the garage because didn't have the money yet
Yeah.
to go, rent a place or, find a place to run the business out of. So you did what you could. You're big on having everything pay for itself.
Right.
So you have a small startup, which you use to help advertise and market and stuff. But as far as your expenses and stuff, you let whatever you threw out there come back in to bring some money in to help pay for the next step. So you kind of stair-stepped it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just, and that's it. I told that individual this, when we got.
So maybe you don't start off with an office, that you have to pay for or something. You start off at the kitchen table and you work your way there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then you build up from the kitchen table to somewhere else. I always take pride in that, of someone who I want to bring on the show, my mentor of mine, Randy. I want to bring him on. He talks about that. Very savvy businessman. He's built everything from his kitchen table. It's crazy. The amount of money this gentleman makes is ridiculously wild from just his kitchen table. And his story is phenomenal because he always tells me, he's like, I remember when his first business, he went and bought an office and filled it up and did all these things and made it look all real cool. And he's like, shit, now I got to pay for these bills. But when they built their payments business from like, I think it was 11 million in the red to 14 million in the black, like that was huge. Like and it was all done from the kitchen table. And the only reason they even got offices was because of me. I'm not joking you. That way the only reason they got offices was so that I could spend time in their vicinity, in their general area.
Yeah.
That was it. Because I had an office and each of them had an office. Randy and Raul both had one. And I didn't. And Randy used his, but he was like, I could care less if I have it.
Yeah.
And Raul was the same way. He was barely ever there. In fact, carpet was green and ugly and he wasn't even in the thing. But I was around the corner and we'd always eat lunch together. And Randy would have me buy lunch, or he would buy lunch and I would go get it. It was he buys, I fly. That's what we call it. So he's like, I buy, you fly. And that was it because of the vicinity. But other than that, they never needed an office.
Yeah.
And I don't need one either. I do now, it's different, but and that kind of leads me to this next point of internal versus external. I remember my first business was medical records, and I was telling Misty on the way up to this, before this recording, that I actually separated inside of our apartment, the apartment that I had. I had a cubicle in there, and in that cubicle, it was like my little workspace. And so, it was a 1-bedroom apartment. I had a cubicle in this 1-bedroom apartment. And when I stepped in the cubicle, I was even dressed. Guys, this is something else. If you're building from the kitchen table and you don't have that yet, where you feel like you can go and make that separation, get dressed. Just get dressed. That's it. If you're doing it in your night clothes,
your Netflix watching clothes.
your nighttime, your Netflix clothes. If you're in your Netflix and chill, Netflix and chill out outfit, pre or post, then you need to make sure that you're not doing that, and you can, change that. That's huge because that can get you into a mindset. I needed to do that, before at one point. I don't do that now. I don't have to anymore. Now I can just do my normal shorts and t-shirt. It doesn't affect me like it used to. But you know, in the beginning, I had to actually put on my shoes. I had to, put on my dress shoes, put on my dress slacks, put on my shirt and all that. And I'd go into my cubicle and I would get stuff done. And then, because those things
It
were
helped you be
it
productive.
helped me be productive. It was external. Um, I in the beginning, a lot of external factors were important. And I remember making that shift from external to internal. If you need an office, if you're single and you need an office, that's external. That's not internal. And I remember making that shift and having that discussion with Randy at that time, and he's like, "Man, you finally made it from external to internal." He's like, "That's the difference." And that was it. So now everything's internal. I actually want to build something from the kitchen table. Sometimes I go through phases where I'm literally at the kitchen table. And other times I go through phases where I'm in my office. It just depends on what's going on, at that time. But you don't need those things. All those little items out there that if you feel like is stopping you, those external items are not it. It's internal. And, whether it's you've got to be able to work no matter where you're at. Because when you're building a business, you don't have the luxuries. Now I think when you get later on, I'm sure Misty would agree with this, as you have a family and kids, like we separate now.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
you do.
well, you do too. You walk in the bedroom and shut
Shut
the
the door.
door and sit at your desk, because that way you don't have to hear the kids.
Mhm.
And then of course I go to my office, which is still on the property or whatnot, and I walk down and I shut the door behind me and I don't have to worry about anything. But it's just me and the dog. But we have a lot more going on now. We have both the kids and we have several businesses. It's not just
Mhm.
like one item where I'm like, I'm gonna knock this thing out. We have other staff members we gotta take care of and help, and so it's not just, but if it was just me, right? Something happened to Misty and it was and the kids and it's just myself, and you put me in that studio apartment, I'm gonna tear that thing apart. You know, After I get done crying, sadness goes away. I probably would tear it apart out of sadness. That's usually how I operate. I would be like, I'm gonna just push myself into it, and then that's how I deal with it. So, but no, I would tear that apart. If I was 24 years old and didn't have a wife and kids, I'm like, and
It's pretty quiet there.
it's fairly quiet. I'm like, my bed's right here, and my table's right there. I just get up. I walk to the office and I'm done. Nobody knows. Most people don't care anymore, anyways. So that's kind of the thing we have to talk about with some of the, different agents. The agents that work with us understand that. They're like, it's all the same. The hustle and bustle is just what's going to be. You're going to be out and about, you're hustling.
You need a car, you need a phone, and a computer.
That's absolutely it. You can do so much with that. The phone's amazing what you can do with that. I mean, it's literally everything that you used to carry around is now in your hand,
Mhm.
so,
With you all the time.
but external versus internal, I think is huge. I think that's the message of today, is just build from the kitchen table. Have that ability to if you have the ability to build something from scratch at the kitchen table and it grows, I think you'll appreciate it a lot more and you'll do a better job of it. I know that may sound different, but if you've ever experienced what it's like to just throw a bunch of money at something and then, you're scrambling to hope it comes back, but you haven't proven the model yet, right?
Mhm.
It makes it really hard because we've gone through that with another business where we're like, let's just throw some cash at it. And we threw
Yeah.
cash and we are like, man, this is a monster hungry, cash hungry monster. Just eats the cash away. So we've been through that. And versus if I know before we were here recording this, I'm looking at real quick, looking at the books going, okay, if I just cut this, if I add this, if I add that, I can do this. And we're building things from scratch all day long. And I think if you have that ability, you'll never go broke. What
Yeah,
would you say?
I agree.
So, internal versus external, guys. Build from the kitchen table. Have that ability, and it's a scrappiness. Learn to survive first. Take care of yourself first, and then grow from there, and then get those items that you want. All those things are going to make a
Haven't
difference.
earned it yet.
You haven't earned it yet. Absolutely. You haven't earned it yet. And then you can later on threaten the wife that you're going to go get an office somewhere else because my other office is too cold, but I've earned it. No. So yeah, anyhow, that's it. External versus internal. Don't let the external factors stop you from it. You need to look internally, figure those things out. Why is it that you're not really wanting to do it? And then of course for this individual as well, they needed to be around other investors. So, we were the right brokerage in that sense. They
Mhm.
were the ones that can help that individual. Most brokerages aren't that. So, uh, but the internal versus external. Anything you want to add to that, Misty?
You covered it.
Sounds good, guys. Well, guys, I hope you guys have a good one. Go ahead and, really dig into that internally inside and figure that out. If you're dealing with those externals, turn it from external to internal. Catch you guys next time.